Hello everyone, happy Thursday and happy 4th of July ahead of time. Be sure to tune in tomorrow because Dennis Prager will be in these chairs with a very special guest, but I kind of prefer my special guest today. He's our latest PragerU presenter and it's your first PragerU video.
It is, yes.
So welcome to the PragerU presenter family.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, best-selling author, host of the Andrew Klavan Show that you can find on iTunes and over at dailywire.com co-founded by another PragerU presenter. We're moving on up in the world, Ben Shapiro, who's a mutual friend of ours as well. Andrew, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure.
And I'm sorry we don't have your latest book, but can you talk about that for a second?
I have a memoir out called The Great Good Thing. The subtitle is A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ, and it's basically my journey from as far away as humanly possible to becoming a Christian.
I love it. There's also a video that I've seen.
Yes.
With your, using a Christianese phrase, testimony.
With my testimony. I know. I had to learn all that Christianese so I could begin talking to you people.
Sorry about that. It's one of the, qualifications that we require.
Yeah.
I don't think Jesus does, but,
No,
Southern Baptists and
enough,
evangelicals are like, what? We came up with our own weird language. But welcome to the cool club. So everyone should be sure to check that out. You can get it on Amazon.com. Let's talk about your PragerU video, which is over 250,000 views right now.
Oh boy.
So you are on track to hit the 1 million club by the end of the day. I think we should give out T-shirts for this.
Absolutely.
Right?
If I don't get a T-shirt, I feel I haven't been anywhere.
It's like, The Rock got the jacket when he hosted SNL 5 times. We should give you a lapel or something. So your video is so topical. It's about the topic of fake news.
Right. And
we have been hearing fake news, I feel like, at least for the last couple of years. And oftentimes, it comes from the left side of the aisle towards right-wing news outlets.
Well, it's kind of like a cigar that exploded in their faces. They kept throwing it at, Trump-friendly sites like Breitbart and all that. And suddenly people said, wait a minute, you want to talk about fake news? We've been listening to 8 years of fake news under Obama, and now suddenly we're listening to this fake news about Donald Trump. And the point I wanted to make in this video was really, it's all fake news because the mainstream outlets, which control most of the flow of news information in the country, are all so heavily on the Democrat left-wing side that the news gets slanted every day in ways we don't even think about. And so it's not so much to me about this story wasn't true or that story wasn't true. It's the whole way the news is presented, which I think is dishonest.
Do you think that the news should, because we're both conservatives and we're obviously pro-transparency when it comes to government, do you think that the news media should be required to be more transparent?
It's not a question of transparency. It really is a question of doing their jobs, of doing the thing that we expect them to do. It's funny, I have no brief against like MSNBC, which is an openly left-wing commentary station. My problem is with New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, these people who are supposed to be, after all, the networks are using the public airways, they're supposed to be delivering the objective news of the day. It's not that hard. I understand that all people have bias, but if you hire enough conservatives and left-wingers to control the flow of information, they will check each other. They'll yell at each other. They'll get in arguments with each other, and they'll come out somewhere in the middle. But when you're surrounded by people who agree with you, psychologists have shown this again and again, when you're surrounded by people who only agree with you, you become radicalized and you become biased, and you don't even know it. These guys don't even know that they're lying to us.
Because there's yes men all around you.
That's right. And when Trump called them out, they thought he was
attacked.
being mean. Yeah. And yet then they found that a good half of the country felt this way, and they were shocked.
So speaking of attacks, I was running errands this morning and bringing my daughter to summer camp, and I was listening to CNN, MSNBC, Patriot Network, local talk radio, everything. And it was fascinating to me to see the difference between the perspective of Donald Trump's tweet, which I'm sure most of our audience have seen, where he tweeted about Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, but most of the tweet was about Mika. And, the Fox News was totally ignoring it and talking about how if healthcare fails, it's Paul Ryan's fault. And then on CNN, John King essentially called him a bigoted, sexist a-hole. And,
really?
He used the word ASS, and I was like, whoa, as I'm driving, and it's like CNN's like, oh my God, the president tweeted something sexist, and the extreme of the coverage. So is the president's tweet today fake news? Should the media be focusing on something else?
It's not fake news. I think it is. I did think it was an unfortunate tweet. I mean, Trump has been growing in the office. Well, this is one of the things that nobody's noticed about him, by the way. He's been growing in the office. He has been, growing into his job. He's been getting better at his job. The Trump who ran his campaign could never have done that trip to Saudi Arabia and Israel that he did. This was a setback a little bit because for the last few weeks, I want him to use Twitter. I want him to be tough. I want him to be a troll. He's the troll in chief. He really knows how to get people crazy. I thought this was a little lower class. I thought this was beneath the office of the presidency, he tweeted about her facelift or something like this. And I did think that sets him back because he was winning. This week he has, CNN is in shambles after this week. It's a week of scandal, one week after another of scandal, dishonesty, lies. The entire Russia narrative has been blown up. That means for the last 6 months, everything we've been hearing about Russian collusion could have been done in a minute-long story. It was all nonsense.
I mean, they fired 3 reporters over
They
it.
fired 3 reporters. They fired Kathy Griffin. Don't mess it up, when your enemies are dying, don't distract people by shooting yourself in the foot. So I didn't think this was his best moment. It's a 2-minute story. It's not a big story.
I think, unfortunately, for people like us that are very pro, his potential immigration plan that Speaker Ryan presented today, and of course is named after Californian Kate Steinle,
Right.
who was murdered by a multiple repeat offender,
Yes.
illegal immigrant. That should be the headline news of the day. But unfortunately, it's not.
Right. I mean, the big problem is they're so biased, they're so anti-Trump, and they're so anti-conservative. This idea, by the way, that they've only thrown away their objectivity because Trump is so bad, that's a lie. They treated George W. Bush
Awfully.
like trash, and they treated Barack Obama like the son of the living God. I mean, they treated Obama like he had landed out of heaven. So the idea that they've thrown away their objectivity now is untrue. The thing about it is they'll always find something to distract from any news that makes Trump look good. I don't think Trump should help them. I think that Trump shouldn't help them, but no matter what he had said, they would have blown it out of proportion.
You mentioned CNN being in shambles. Project Veritas, specifically James O'Keefe, has some new undercover videos, one with Van Jones, one with a producer over at CNN Health, talking about how Jeff Zucker, the CEO over there, had pushed them to talk about this Russia scenario. Do you really think it is them being vindictive against President Trump, or do you think it's them just pursuing high ratings? Because we have seen CNN get a massive bump in the ratings this last quarter.
In some ways, this is the big lie that they talk about this in Hollywood. I've done a lot of screenwriting, and I know how Hollywood works. And people will say, Hollywood's all about the money.
By the way, when he says he's done a lot of screenwriting, he means a lot of very successful screenwriting. Just, IMDb it. He's being humble.
But, thank you. That's very kind. But the thing is, people say Hollywood's all about money. No, it's not. People operate in this system that provides them with love and prestige and honor and girlfriends and all the other things. And you win in these areas by being left-wing. So the thing is, sure, sometimes they always say, oh, well, we make mistakes, but they only make mistakes on one direction. They only make mistakes on one direction. Frequently those mistakes reveal something about themselves. So yes, it's for ratings, but the rating thing is a vicious cycle because you start out being so biased toward the left, right-wingers stop watching. So now your audience pool is all left-wingers. So now the more you start playing to the left-wingers, the more of that pool comes in and your ratings go up. But what would happen if everybody could watch you? What would happen if both sides could watch you and feel that they were getting a fair and balanced news broadcast? Then you wouldn't be in that vicious circle and you could up your ratings simply by telling the truth. They created the system where the ratings leads them to the left.
And a reminder, if you haven't checked out Andrew's video, that is something that it's the sole content of your video today for PragerU. It's on PragerU.com, and it is also available in this PragerU Live link, which, reminder, are kept free because of donations from people like you. If you go right now to PragerU.com and click the donate button, you spend $25 to help us. We are a nonprofit organization. It will ensure that 2,500 people get to see Andrew's videos. So it's a very important topic. It's a topical issue too. I mean, anyone from the age of 12 to like 82, I'm naming my grandfather's age, knows what hashtag fake news is.
When I look at what Trump has accomplished so far, say the appointment of Gorsuch, the cutting back of regulations, some of the reform of the VA, when I look at some of the good things, I think one of the good things he has done is he has knocked this monstrous machine for disseminating Democrat propaganda back on its heels. It shouldn't be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. There is a job called being a journalist that can be done without bias. You know, it can't be done perfectly. Nobody's asking for that. But they are not imperfect. They are really what O'Keefe called them. He called them Pravda. They are Pravda. And it's just, it has destroyed, you know, the effect of it goes beyond just disseminating false information. It also divides the country. We're in this stage in this country where people on the left and right are barely speaking to one another. Part of that, I truly believe, is that the left sets up this idea where there's their opinion and there's hate. You know, there is being in support of gay marriage and you're homophobic. There's no argument, there's no debate, there's no way a person of goodwill might say, look, there's reasons to support only one kind of marriage. We never have that debate, and the media has enforced that vision on the country. So one half of the country, the left, thinks the other half is hateful. The other half, the right, thinks the left is stupid, and the media basically feeds into that narrative by only serving the left. And part of this anger and this division, what Dennis has called a cold civil war, it comes from the media mistreating one side of the country so badly.
So can it be fixed?
I really believe it can. I truly believe, whether it will be or not, I don't know, but it can easily be fixed by hiring conservatives. I must have written this in the LA Times 10, 15 years ago. I said, hire some conservatives. It's that easy. Don't hire them to be in front of the camera. Hire them behind the cameras where the decisions are made. You know, Cheryl Atkinson, one of the great investigative TV reporters, left CBS because Scott Pelley and the middle managers wouldn't put her stories about Fast and Furious on the air. So she was doing good work. She had done good work about George W. Bush too. She'd done exposés on him, but when she did them on Obama, those middle managers kept the stuff off the air. Hire conservatives in middle management. Go out of your way to do it. 50% of your people should be conservatives and 50% should be liberals. Let them fight among themselves. Let them collate and curate the news together, and you'll get a good news program. It can easily be fixed.
I think one of the great examples that kind of popped into my head this week of fake news and media overreaction, or their biased reaction, which is something else that you point out in this latest PragerU video, is remember back during the primaries, Marco Rubio's wife was lambasted for a couple of reckless driving tickets or speeding tickets. But this week we've seen that the FBI is investigating Senator Bernie Sanders' wife for criminal charges with some type of donations and lying on the books.
Bank fraud,
and bank fraud when she was, you know, president, I believe, of a college.
Of a college, she misrepresented the college to get a loan.
And that's been null.
No,
I mean,
non-existent. Bernie Sanders went on Chuck Todd's show, right, and he didn't ask him about that. He's been trying to stop the Senate health care bill, and he keeps saying, oh, this will kill people, hundreds of people will die, thousands, they're killing people. And not one reporter has said to him, you know, a guy, one of your Bernie bros just took a rifle and started taking pot shots at our congressman because he was so angry. You want to dial it back a little? You know, you want to stop with the, you know.
Senator Warren said it was blood money.
I know, but nothing touches them because the press won't go after them, and they know it. They know they live in this bubble. It's one of the reasons, you know, conservatives are always complaining that the GOP is cowardly. This is one of the reasons. They're like abused children. They know if they make a mistake, or even if they don't make a mistake, the press is going to portray them as uncaring, mean, greedy people, and they know that whatever the Democrats do, they're going to get away with it, and that has made them the cowards that they sometimes are.
So then what can we do as conservatives, and specifically conservatives in media, to defeat that narrative?
I think we have to call them out, first of all. One of the best things that Fox News does, by the way, is they have the Bret Baier Show. It actually is a demonstration of how a great news show can be. It is, in fact, fair and balanced. And the problem is it's surrounded by all this right-wing commentary, so everybody thinks it's a right-wing show, but it's really not. It really is a fair show. We should show them what it looks like. We should call them out all the time. We should never be afraid to be portrayed as hateful if we speak our minds and speak clearly. You know, one of the things I do when I talk to liberals is the first word I say to them is, if I'm making a speech or just giving an address, one of the first things I say to them is, I know what you think. You don't know anything about what I think. I know what you think because I see it on the news, I see it at the movies, I see it on TV. You never hear my point of view. Let me start with my first principles. And usually they sort of perk up and think, oh, you know, you actually have a point of view. You don't sit around going, oh, I hope black people fall in a band. You know, you actually have a reason for saying, I don't want your cities to turn into Detroit, into Baltimore, into Chicago. You know, there is another way of looking at the world.
So I have to get your thoughts on healthcare.
Yes.
Because first, Leader McConnell had said it's going to happen before the 4th of July break. Now we're Thursday before the 4th of July weekend, and he's kind of backtracking on that a little bit. Of course, over on the House side, the Republicans are working on an important immigration legislation, as we touched on it a little bit ago. What do you think about the health care bill as it stands? Now there's 9. It went from 4 to now 9 Republican senators saying that they can't vote for this.
Yeah.
And it's people from the right, like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, and then people more moderate on the left, like Susan Collins. What's going to happen?
I have a lot of faith in McConnell. I'm wondering if maybe a lot of this is kabuki, that he's going to give them a chance over the break to give each of them a little victory so they can all come back and say, well, it's not exactly what I wanted, but at least I pushed it this way and that way, and give them some cover in their districts, in their states, so they can go back and say we won something here. The healthcare thing in general is bad news in a way, because they kept saying we're going to repeal it and we're going to repeal it, and it's not repealing it, it's tinkering with it, and everybody knows it and all that. And if they would just say that, there's a brilliant point I thought our pal Ben Shapiro made, was that they would just stop calling it repeal.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to defend it on those grounds.
That's something that Rand Paul has said as well.
Yes.
He's like,
yeah.
It isn't a repeal.
It's not a repeal. I seriously think they should pass it. And I'll tell you why. I do not see a path to a conservative victory here. I don't see a path to repeal. They're too divided, there's too much intra-party fighting, and of course no help from the left. I think that we should give Trump the victory, because I don't think we should let him drift into the Democrat camp. Remember, Trump is not an ideologue. He's a non-ideological pragmatist, right? If he can get some love from Chuck Schumer, which Schumer hasn't given him, but if he can get some, he would negotiate with Schumer. We don't want that to happen. I think let's get past this. Let's do what we have to do. Hope that Tom Price jiggles with the regs a little bit and makes it a little bit more free market than it is. But let's move on to tax reform. It's a loss. One of the things I always say on talk radio, there are no losses. You only get betrayed. We were betrayed. Sometimes in politics you just lose. And I think this is a loss for conservatives. We should get past it and move on.
So, final question. What piece of legislation would you want to see Republicans and the White House present next and move forward?
I would like to see actual tax reform, not just a tax cut. I'd settle for a tax cut now, but ultimately I'd like to see tax reform. And the reason I say that is because Trump is going to rise and fall in the economy. That was really what he was running on. That was more than anything else. That was what he was running on. I think the tax reform, I think there's so much money that stayed away because of Barack Obama's regulations. I think there's so much money offshore that would come pouring back into this economy. The experts say we can't have 3% growth. I think we can have 3.5% growth. I really do. And I am old enough to remember what it looks like when you go from a bum Obama economy to a great new economy, because I was there for the Carter administration, and we were in the dumps, and everybody said,
sorry.
No, I know. And everybody said it couldn't be done, and Ronald Reagan turned it around. It's like laughing gas. It's when your economy goes from what we've been having, this 1%, 1.5% growth, to 3.5% growth, it's happiness time. And if that happens, Republicans will have majorities for a long time to come, and I think a lot more can get done. And so I would go for the tax reform now and hope that it really spurs the economy in the way I think it will.
Andrew, thank you so much for your time today.
Always great to see you.
Love chatting with you. Please go to PragerU.com right now and check out Andrew's latest video on #FakeNews. Be sure to like and share this video if you liked it, and be sure to donate, please. Because of generous donations from people like you, even $5 makes a difference, and thousands more people, including millennials like myself, can have access to our videos for free. Thank you for watching today. Have a happy and wonderful 4th of July, everyone, and be sure to stay tuned, because tomorrow Dennis Prager will be on this set with a very special guest. See you next time.